Hi everyone, hope you're all doing really well. So we're going to be doing a F2P Ganyu sort of run in the Spiral Abyss. I will show the build obviously at the end. I think the reason for making this video is quite simple in my opinion. A lot of free-to-play players that have like either started playing the game like really late, or when Ganyu, like the Ganyu banner was up, they didn't like really have any Primo Gems because they spent it all on Zhongli, etc. Um, they might want to sort of think of grabbing Ganyu in the rerun, and you've obviously heard on the internet Ganyu is like the main DPS or like the best DPS in the game, and there's often like like a lot of YouTubers would go and like give you the C6R5 showcases, but when it comes to actually seeing how does the character perform like on her own, what is the downsides and the upsides to having her, you don't really find a lot of content because most of the time what you'll find is people would use like a shield, they'll use some sort of let's say Diona or Zhongli shield, they'll permanently freeze the enemy, and then it's like very hard to get like a realistic read of what you can expect when you've got Ganyu. So you can see it, that's exactly what I've sort of done on the Spiral Abyss floor. Because we've got like mostly a Hydro here, it is pretty easy. It's like we don't really have to worry too much about actually playing the game because the enemies are permanently frozen. To this effect, I also brought Kokomi along. This is just to keep Ganyu alive, and trust me, we will need it, spoiler alert, to keep Ganyu on moving. But this is just to sort of show you the potential power of like freeze comps or perma-freeze comps. The enemy can literally do nothing and you can just stand back at leisure and sort of hit them. So far, not a lot. I mean, Ganyu looks pretty impressive considering how she's cleared everything. But you'll see as we go on, she'll start to struggle a bit more and more, and then we can like talk about the downsides and the upsides. So the biggest thing is because Ganyu's in the archer class, you've got to aim to hit shots. So if you miss the direct shot, you can still get her second like or bloom damage that can hit, which is really cool. So generally in Genshin Impact, if you're not a very good aimer, just try and aim at the feet of the enemies. That is like, you can see it right there. It is a much better strategy because you don't need to worry about hitting the target. You can see it right there. It's like much more safer instead of your arrow like flying like past and you're like missing the enemy. But the problem with aiming in Genshin Impact is it reduces your field of vision, so anything that's like to your sides or like jumping from above, etc., can really then sort of damage or like take you by surprise if you're not expecting it. What you'll see is sort of like the damage that my Ganyu does. Obviously, the Cryo Mason's got like cryo resistance, so we're not hitting too hard. But if you saw in the previous little bit of like run with against the Primo Geovisha, we were hitting anything from about 33 to 40k like critical hits, so it's the hit and then of course the bloom shots connecting as well, and that I think is a reasonable standard for an F2P Ganyu. I know there are some really cracked Ganyus out there that can because they've got Wanderers to pay or they've got like different builds and stuff, they can hit like 50k 60k, but I think what I'm showing is like pretty realistic. So I think hopefully you guys have like realized by now the second problem with Ganyu is she's got low HP, she's got low defense, and as a consequence as well, because she's got to charge up her shots, she needs a shield to avoid interruption, and you can still be interrupted even if you've got a shield and the enemy freezes you, so that's also something to take note of. But very often if you want to dodge, then you are sacrificing DPS. This is unlike the melee class, like with characters like Ayaka, where you can dodge and then immediately attack as well. So that's always something to consider. You'll also notice that I'm not really using Kokomi apart from like just Jellyfish refreshing, and that's because I just want to give you like an impression of how Ganyu would do and what you can sort of like realistically expect. Ganyu is quite a fun character, and just a bit of a disclaimer at this point, my Ganyu is of course triple crowned because I've been playing Ganyu since the beginning. So remember, since like the way like last year October, I think we only had Ganyu in like January, but I've been playing Ganyu like for the majority of my journey until Inazuma, and that's when I got Ayaka. So I know the character pretty well. I'm not the best Ganyu player, of course, but we can do some reasonable damage. I'll just sort of show you exactly another big problem that we've got with this current Spiral Abyss, and that is the absolute RNG that you've got here. So don't feel bad if you're a free-to-play player. and you can't clear it like immediately. You'll see even with like for me and my C6 characters, the enemy can really like if the stars don't align in like a typical or like average run, then you can waste a lot of time. So the big thing here was the enemies didn't group up in the beginning, so that wasted time. Here we sort of were like unlucky. Our meteorite missed, so basically we had to like retry. Essentially, Ayaka's damage she didn't do enough damage in enough time, and the enemy sort of iframed it, dodged the meteorite, and I was just sad. So the RNG can really be brutal. So my best advice is just try and restart as much as you can. Obviously, floor 2 is a bit of a special case, but try your best to clear this spiral abyss as quickly as you can, or like this first floor as quickly as you can, so that you can like do lots of damage. You'll also see here about the RNG, you can see it just went underground, and now we can finally sort of like checkmate him because he's now vulnerable in this phase. And then I'm going to drop, you can see the opponents were 3 out of 6, but they spawned in, I think this is just because of ping and stuff like that, and our meteorite missed. So RNG, the two sentinels there like sort of teleported away again, very annoying because they're not grouped up. So yeah, I tried to, when I did this run, I first thought of like, well, I'm going to try and reset to like give at least Ganyu like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And I was like, well, perhaps I like show this just to like show you guys like how bad this abyss can be. It's not so much the DPS check as it is like how the enemies are grouped up. And you'll see it now in this run. Spoiler alert, we won't make it in 7 minutes. And I'm also going to be using Kokomi a bit more because we need just that extra bit of DPS. At my current stage, my Kokomi, my C6R5 Kokomi will outdamage this Ganyu, and that's just a fact. If you look at all the numbers, like the DPS per second, I think we're hitting with Kokomi something in the order of 51k per 1.5 seconds. That is excluding the jellyfish damage, but obviously Ganyu cannot have like that cadence, but it's just to sort of not drag this out for any longer. So you can see the big thing here is to try and keep the enemies relatively grouped up and trying to keep them permanently frozen, because that's the best way in which you can do damage. Ganyu's got like fantastic AoE damage. We can see pretty good. It doesn't matter which one of these guys you hit, but you can, I don't know if you can feel it, but you can already feel that like compared to what Kokomi does is you'll see right now, you can just feel like it's like way slower with Ganyu than with Kokomi. So that's just sort of to be expected. And now we're back here and we can just sort of finish this guy off, and you'll notice the big problem is because Ganyu does like a lot of DPS, and it looks impressive when you hit like 40k, like right there, or 41k, but remember that's over a period of 2.5 seconds, sort of including like the travel time of the arrow. And if you really then sort of cut that down, you'll see the effective DPS drops to like about 20k per hit, which is a lot lower than you would typically expect. This is quite a cool situation. We can just sort of freeze everyone pretty strong and then just try and survive. But you can already see the DPS check, unless you're running some sort of melt team, you actually absolutely need to run like a melt team to get like a decent DPS against this floor, because these enemies are really tanky. I know a lot of people were complaining about the perpetual mechanical array, but the thing is he actually has like a resistance drop after you beat these little minions, whereas in this case you don't get any resistance drops, you just get like bad RNG. And I think so far we've got like a decent grouping of the enemies, but as a free-to-play player, hopefully this sort of gives you a decent understanding of what you can expect with Ganyu and what you can sort of aim for when you get to her rerun. She's definitely not as hard of a carry as she was, so you'll definitely need like a team to play around it. That'll be like my conclusion. And then just finally the build. You'll see just pretend it's an R1 Skyward Harp, triple talents. There we go. And then artifacts, not the best, but hey, it's what it is. But yeah, guys, I just want to sort of show this. Have a good day. Cheers.